Now I'm getting into trading and people are like, what's trading? What's Forex? Thinking all of it is a scam, whatever, being told this and that, losing friends, not having success for 2 years, and then finally getting breakthroughs and then everything changing, where maybe family members are asking you advice or, now there's a lot more respect because they see the lifestyle. And
you did what in one day?
103,000. I took the trade on a Wednesday and I closed it out on a Monday.
You are now locked in for the Comeback Kings podcast. Let's go!
Oh, yes, Kings, it's time to get active with today's episode of the Comeback Kings podcast, where we talk real about the challenges that the men face. We interview men who faced adversity head on and have come back stronger than ever. I am your host, Aaron James, and today I can't wait for you to hear this King story. But first, the Comeback Kings is not just a podcast. It is a movement that we've got going on here. Here's something that we've put together with you in mind. Check it out. Don't forget, the conversation continues inside the CBK mobile app. This is the premier community for content, conversations, and resources, all built to help our Kings get back on track. Inside the app, you'll get exclusive after-show clips, direct access to podcast guests, and insider interviews with industry experts on everything from health and wealth to relationships and spirituality. You'll also unlock member-only deals designed for the needs of real men, plus tools and training to fuel your personal comeback. Come network with fellow Kings from around the world and be a part of the global movement, helping men rise from setbacks and rebuild a life that they're proud of, with purpose, strength, and community. Join the movement now. Download the free Comeback Kings mobile app at cbknetwork.com. All right, so let me introduce today's guest, Jason Stewart, known to most online as QB Stu. Stu is a good friend of the show and has been incredibly successful in two vastly different worlds. So the world of sports and the world of finance. He was once ranked as the #1 JUCO QB in all of the land, and then has also gone on to great success in the world of day trading. He's a millionaire day trader and investor, and he's here to hang out with us for a little bit. Stu, what's going on, brother? Thank you for being here. How you doing, man?
Hey, blessed and highly favored. I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited to dive into what we're going to get into today, man. How you living?
Man, I'm wonderful, man. Thank you. Like I said, appreciate you being here. Listen, man, let's just kick it off. Obviously you've been very successful. I love sharing your accolades. I've loved watching your story, but for all the Kings that are listening in, man, just fill in the blanks for us, man. Help us understand kind of a little bit about the success that you've got going on right now, some of your favorite things that you got going on, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I just dropped my free course, no strings attached, everything that I feel like is necessary for somebody to get involved, because, when people come to me asking about trading and stuff, I would always send them to Baby Pips or other places. And so I just figured, why don't I make my own Baby Pips, but also give all the sauce, interviews, etc. So that, once again, QB Stew on my page or qbstew.com, people can find that. But outside of that, just got back from a trip in Boston with some of my good friends. And like we were talking about before we got on, I'm just taking care of my mom's house and some estate stuff. But I'm really looking forward to the next chapter of life, the next season of life. And I know we'll get into a lot of that, but it's exciting. I'm excited, man. I'm feeling myself heal. For those that don't know, I lost my mom in September of last year. So I'm still at her house handling a lot of that stuff. And I'm excited for the next chapter of life that allows me to kind of focus back on Jason again.
Received, man. And again, condolences. I know we've spoken offline about that, man, but it's never easy going through that. So, hopefully it's something that you don't get used to, right? I mean, you're not having it happen too often, but I love to hear that you're looking forward to the positive things and what's to come next. So you mentioned you've got a course that's dropping or just dropped. Tell us a little bit more about that. Actually, before we do that, because I want to give people a little bit of an idea. When I talk about day trading or investing and things like that, I think people's mind can go many different directions with it, right? There's so many different things that you can do. And so for the new person that's listening and wants to know more about your story, like what's that background like in terms of day trading?
Yeah, so my story in like the elevator pitch format is, grew up in Alexandria, Virginia. If you've seen Remember the Titans, that's my city. My high school is actually in the movie, the Hayfield Hawks. And then from high school, I didn't have any offers, so I went to junior college for 2 years. And as you mentioned in the intro, became number one in the nation. I signed with the University of Memphis, so I was with Memphis for 3 seasons. And I didn't get to play a whole lot. I was MVP of a game against Cincinnati, but I sat behind the first round draft pick for most of my time there. And he ended up getting drafted to the Denver Broncos. So he and I moved out there. We were roommates, and our class schedule was identical in college. So we were attached at the hip, just really good friends. And then he was busy doing stuff with the Broncos. I moved out there, probably had $3,000 to $4,000 to my name, no car. And it's like the Kevin Hart skit where it's like why you shouldn't hang around people that have way more money than you. Because, my 3K, it was like evaporating. I mean, someone who's a millionaire, they want to go do everything. And like it's cool when a friend, I'll pay for some meals here and there. I'll pay for golfing, stuff like it's like, but then at a certain point, especially in college, I was big bro. So that's what it came to a certain point where it's like, man, I would like to do that for him or, do that for my family. And it was inspirational too, getting to see us go from broke college kids to my best friend being a millionaire and doing things for his family that I had really dreamed of doing for mine. So that's how I got into trading, because I ended up getting a job at Target, stocking shelves from 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. And I just got sick and tired of that. So I started Googling ways to make money online. And I came across Forex. There was this 18-year-old kid I saw was traveling the world, and he was like flashing plane tickets, not even so much money. And that intrigued me because I'm like, man, I got 2 degrees. I finished with a 3.7. And here I am at Target, making minimum wage. So I just reached out to him. And at first I was skeptical because I thought Forex stood for fake Rolex. But he had a course that he allowed me to go into. And for like a year and a half to 2.5 years, I didn't really make much money at all. It was a lot of like building up accounts and then blowing accounts.
And by the way, is that normal, like to do that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the only thing that really gave me hope was because me, my little brother, and my dad grew up on video games so heavy. And I looked at trading as a video game where it's like, even though I would blow accounts, I would still see the little bit of profit made or an account doubled before it blew. And I would still know like, oh, had I just closed out or had I withdrawn there before I, cooked it, then it's like, that still would have been my money. So it was more so I knew it was real. I mean, my life changed when June 26, 2017. So that just passed a couple days ago. But 2017, that's when I first got into it. So I just passed my like 8-year anniversary. It's crazy to me that it's been that long. But 8 years ago, I had saw $7 on a screen in profit, and it was made in like 30 minutes. So that was like half the amount of time that I was spending to make my $10 an hour. And that's all I needed to see. At that point, I was like, I became just addicted. And that's one thing that I'll say. I mean, there's like a healthy obsession I feel like is needed in order to achieve the things, especially if it's like really big things, really great things. It's something that like from the moment you wake up to the time you go to sleep, majority of your day, your focus and energy is on growing or getting better in that field or in that lane.
Yes, sir.
And that's what it was with football, becoming number one in the nation. So then I felt like it's now, don't get me wrong, it's like, it doesn't make it easy, but it was like, that was the same mentality where I'm like, man, I just did that in football, and a lot of people didn't believe that would be possible or that I could do it. And then it happened. And then now I'm getting into trading, and people are like, what's trading? What's Forex? Thinking all of it is a scam, whatever, being told this and that, losing friends, and not having success for 2.5 years, and then finally getting breakthroughs, and then everything changing, where maybe family members are asking you advice, or, now there's a lot more respect because they see the lifestyle and just decisions that have been made. But You know what's even crazier, man, on a super side note is that eats me alive, but I also have to come to peace with it, is the NIL stuff. And, you know, it's like me being number one in the nation.
Oh, yeah.
If it was just a couple years later, that would have paid out anywhere from 800 to 1.2 million just in me. And there's also other rules too. JUCO doesn't take your eligibility anymore. So I would have got to go to Memphis as a true freshman. And they no longer drug test. So the whole me smoking gas and failing weed test, that would have been all greenlit too. So
We're going to have to share that story at some point in time before the episode is over.
oh, for sure. No, we can definitely dive into that. I got the painting behind me. Shout out to my guy Nathan Robbins. He's working like on a whole collection for me.
Yeah.
What I call like the smokers collection. It's like Django and Gandalf and just a bunch of cool, iconic. I got the Michael Jordan when he's smoking the cigar. Just a bunch of greatness. But yeah, we'll get into all that.
The success that you had in day trading, is there a crown moment for you? Like, is there one day or one thing that happened for you that you just said, man, I made it?
Yeah, I think honestly for me, one of the videos I have pinned on my social media where like I made 100K in a day, it was 103, and then me FaceTiming my mom, FaceTiming my dad, and just like the emotion. It's like it was a feat, you know, and I've had bigger days. I mean, I can get into that a little bit as well, but I mean, it just the emotion of like, oh my gosh, you know, because I had lived at home with both parents. I was working with my dad as a carpenter from 2018 until I left to Atlanta in late 2019. So I was in Erie, Pennsylvania for like a year and a half, working as a handyman and building accounts and then blowing accounts and teaching. I would be teaching him about the trading stuff on our way to work, and then he would be teaching me stuff about carpentry. I mean, we had to gut an entire house and like basically build it all back up from the inside. So it was just cool, you know, we were teaching each other skill sets, and I thought that was so remarkable. And I kept thinking about Jesus being a carpenter and that it requires vision. You know, you got to see the end before you start.
That's right.
And yeah, it was just a dark time for me, man. Like my mom had just got diagnosed with cancer in 2018. So like a lot of that stuff was just weighing on me, you know, the not knowing, you know, how much time am I going to get with her. And that's one thing too, you know, it's crazy. Like my mom got diagnosed in 2018. She didn't pass until 2024, but you know, thank God. But it's like you still don't know. Like it's always it's hanging over you almost like a dark cloud, where you really don't know at what point will things just get worse. So you kind of still always carry that anxiety when you know someone is sick or battling something that you can't really control or have any control over. But that would be, I say, the crown jewel moment just because of emotion. As far as like,
Oh,
oh
you,
my
by the
gosh.
way, you say it's so smooth and so cool, like it's no big deal. But I need you to say that again. You did what in one day?
103,000. I took the trade on a Wednesday and I closed it out on a Monday. So it's like technically like 3 to 4 trading days. But whenever you close the trade out, when you check history, it shows the realized profits as 103,000 in a single day. So
some people are stressing to try to do that in a year, and you did that in a day.
I mean, and then what's crazy is a year later, I did 116 combined off 3 accounts in a day. And that was a similar type of thing where I took a trade, maybe held it for a month or two. But then when I closed out, the profit was 116,000 realized gains in that specific day. So what's crazy though, that I didn't even shed a tear on that one. The year before though, I was sobbing. I'm like beating my chest with my dad to come about. We did it, man. Like, you know, and then a year later, a little bit more. The biggest trade though, the like trophy case trade would be, I'd say the one that I'm in. I put 30 lots on XRP, which is a crypto coin, on the election day. Before Trump got officially elected, I put 30 lots at 50 cents. And I remember waking up the next morning and the price was up. I was up like 50,000, 60,000 floating. And then I kept holding the trade on and on. I would be up like 150,000, 200,000. I would have people telling me close, close, close. And I just was convicted on like, I know, or at least I really believe in my heart of hearts that Trump's administration, then the changes that's going on with the SEC, and a lot of the things fundamentally with XRP and just me knowing the banking relations and the implementation that is going to serve, especially like with Swift, having to start implement crypto. And there's just so many good things, especially with this SEC case about to be dropped, that I just felt like, okay, yes, as an investor, I buy and own XRP, but then also on the same token, what I call double dipping is then I also want to go over here and margin trade it and be placing buys on it and scaling in on positions based on the chart. So that way it's like, I got my crypto ledger over here, and as price goes up, that goes up. And then I also got my margin trade over here. Right now, I have 59 lots and buys on XRP, and it costs me around $900 a day to maintain. So every single day, like another $900. But right now I'm floating, let me see here. Let me check. Right now I'm floating 528,000 off all those positions.
Okay, so brother, so if there's anybody out here listening that's anything like me, I understood a little bit of that.
Half of that. Mm-hmm.
I understand.
Yeah, sorry. I know
be
going on my little spectrum runs sometimes.
No. But I like I said, I know some of that, but some of the technology about, the lot size and everything else like that, it might go over people's head, but brass tacks. So you're up about $500,000?
Right. Just on trades, not including that's what's cool is like, the reason I bring that up though is because I want the person listening who maybe doesn't want to trade to know that also they could have simultaneously and still can, because its price is only at $2.17. I mean, I'm talking about a coin that I believe will go to $20 to potentially $200 in like the next 3 to 5 years. I genuinely believe that. So an investor can at least just buy the coins, move it to a ledger or cold wallet to keep it safe. And that way, even when price goes up, even if you don't want to trade it, you can still make money. It's just, once I learned about trading, then the investing part kind of became easy, because that's a more long-term, like buy and let it sit, what I consider like the buried treasure. And then over here with the margin trading, which is like, putting money on a broker and actually placing buys and sells, then that's where, because of the timing, it's crazy how life works, man. God just had me at my friend's house who had the election on his TV. And we were actually in his backyard smoking a backwood. And I looked in his window and saw that it was like, basically they were saying it was wrapped up as if Trump was like, had it in the bag. And so in that moment, I placed 20 lots. I put my phone in my pocket, pulled my phone back out of my pocket, placed another 10 lots. And all lots is, for the person who has no idea, it's just basically like a position size, like how much money, if you think about it as a bet, then it's like how much of a bet you would put on a team to win. And they're pretty sizable. So at that point, especially with crypto too, the volatility and margin and stuff with that. But I mean, the fundamentals lined up, and I, got a really good position. And then I just been adding positions at $2, hoping to, make a nice little bag off just another $3 push or so. But I mean, yeah, I'm like the football side, the QB side is like, that's, people will hear this and be like, this dude's a nerd, or, it's like, you're right though. That's the, so much information to learn. And with football, it was coverages and formations and defensive sets, and like just so much moving parts and verbiage that you have to know. And you also have to make decisions in seconds. So when I can sit here in front of my computer and, map it all out, and no one's trying to tackle me or hit me, it's just different. There's different types of, exactly. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still stressful. And, the fluctuations I've seen this trade flow over 1.1 million. And then I've also seen it come back down to like 300,000. So it's like, that stuff is all new to me, because I hadn't seen fluctuations like that on a trade before. But that's just growth, that's the stuff where it's like, okay, I remember when I was first trading and I was happy with $100, like you couldn't tell me. I remember I was in Memphis, Tennessee with some of my old teammates when I made my first $500, and we went and got a half a rack of ribs, because 500 is a half a rack.
Yes, sir.
It's like little stuff like that on your journey that you really like look back on and appreciate, because you got to still celebrate the small wins. It might not be the end all be all. I'm still not at the end all be all, but it's like, I'll be damned to not smell the roses along the way, especially, when you lose people you love, then that's just that much more of a reminder. It's like, you never know, how much time you really have. So just keep
That's
treating
true,
it
man.
like every day's.
That's true. And you're right to say that, you got to have some wins along the way. What we talk about here is comebacks, right? And comebacks don't necessarily happen overnight. You're clearly at a place in time where you're feeling good, things are going your way. But you already alluded to the fact that it hasn't always been that way. And there was, some bumps in the road to get to where you are now. So we're going to take a quick break and we want to come back and I want to dive deep into that. I want to kind of see what Jay Stu was going through and then we'll talk about how you came back out on top. So we'll be right back after this break. All right, fellas, listen up. I'm about to let you in on a little secret that could save you thousands of dollars every single year. Why keep spending big money every month just to watch your favorite shows and sports, especially when there's Renegade TV? I used to pay monthly for YouTube TV, Prime, Netflix, Disney Plus, and because I couldn't catch my favorite teams locally, I had to drop even more money on NFL Sunday tickets, NBA League Pass, MLB TV. It was sickening. Then I found Renegade TV. One device, one low price, and you get live access to every major sports league, NFL, NBA, MLB, UFC, you name it, you got it. You also get all the newest releases and thousands of movies and shows on demand. No subscriptions, no monthly fees, no hidden fees. Just one setup and you're set. So now I'm saving hundreds of dollars every month and easily thousands every single year. So go to streamrenegadetv.com and use code CBK2025 to save $50 at checkout. All right, we are back with QB Stu, and we've just been talking a lot about some of the success that he's had on the football field and what he's had with his trading. Stu, man, hell of a story so far, right? Congratulations on all of your success. Like we talked about, it hasn't always been like that. So I'll start by asking the question, and then you just kind of take it wherever you want to go. But I'm curious, when you're starting out trading and you're learning something new like this, I imagine it's not something that just you become an expert overnight. So walk me through what it looked like early on in this journey for you, both, the journey itself within trading, but also, what was going on in your life for the finances.
Yeah, finances, it was very stressful. Because I was me making $10 an hour every time I would spend money, I would view it as hours spent. And that actually would hurt more than me losing money. It was mentally messing me up. And then it was making me more stingy and like frugal about how much I would spend. And it just created this very, very personal relationship with money. And it was like a quote I heard where it's like, you're either a master to it or a slave to it. And I knew that in that season of life, I was a slave entirely. And it's still something that even like, as we just talked about the 100K day, I remember going grocery shopping like the day after and still having anxiety about what I could put in the cart.
Right.
Like, it's crazy how, the situation can change, but the conditioning is like a lifetime. And it's not like I didn't grow up in scarcity, like both my parents, I would say, are like middle class or even upper middle class. And, we lived a great life. We never were worried about food or clothes or anything like that. But it wasn't necessarily like, it was like, oh, here's a car. Or I'm appreciative that my parents had us work for stuff. Like if I wanted things, I had to go work for it. So that kind of click the hustler mindset and mentality. But, with trading, it was just like, okay, I'm overwhelmed by learning all this new information, but I kept saying to myself, if not this, then what? Like that kept coming up because not having a car, it was like, I didn't really have much choice. I needed to figure out how to start making money online or doing something of that nature. And that whole time while I wasn't making money, I still, like from trading, I still was working jobs or, doing other things. Like I was doing cover art and stuff for musicians and just using some of my graphic design skills and things of that nature, but just hustling, just any way I can make money here or there, doing jobs or little side missions.
We've all been there, man. We've all been there.
Mm-hmm. And that was so fueling the dream though. I remember being in my dad's house and like, I would be at bingo nights with him and some of his friends and some older folks. And I'm like the youngest dude in there a lot of the time, unless it's kids. but I would be on the back of my bingo cards, like drawing market patterns and like engulfing, candles and like just anything that I felt like was like helping me like draw up on the board, go like just going through it mentally. It was just once again that obsession. It was like a lot of people thought I was a little bit crazy or, maybe didn't think that it was gonna work, but I had just seen too much. It's one of those things like Neo in the Matrix, once you know it's real and you've seen it. And what I loved most about trading was the thing that bothered me about football is I'm not LeBron James. Yes, I was number one in the nation, but I'm not 6'8" and 240. I'm like, man, if I was Cam Newton size, I probably would still be in the league right now, Like that kind of stuff is how I look at it. And whereas trading, it's all level playing field. Like all that it is account balance and skill set. And, get to it. So overwhelming, but that was what pushed me through.
Like if you were to pinpoint the lowest point in this journey, like, is there something that sticks out to you where you're like, damn, like it's not going right?
Yeah. 2018, when I moved back with my dad, it was like everything in my life seemed like was going wrong. Like I said, my mom had just got sick. My best friend at the time, like we had somewhat of a disagreement about me continuing to pursue trading and just, him wanting me to work a job and certain things. And it's like, I just, the whole people can give you the wrong advice coming from the right place. I knew he had nothing but love for me and wanted to see the best, but it's just we had two different visions as to what that looked like for my life. So I just decided, you know what, like it's time for me to go do my own thing again. But that caused us to not speak much. And then also a girl I had been dating for like 5 or 6 years, she had broke up with me over the trading thing too and the distance. So it was just like
now, everything, all this happening because the trading wasn't going well. I mean, I'm assuming.
It wasn't primary. It was like a lot of it had to do with trading, but also had to do with distance too, where it's like now I'm moving all the way back to Erie and I'm no longer on the West Coast, type of thing, and still don't have money. Now I'm back at home with my dad. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? It's like the trajectory on paper is like, okay, at first living in Denver with the millionaire, your best friend, like going to the Broncos games, like on paper, all of it was so good. But then just in reality, all started to catch up to me and was just like, I'm trying to figure out my life. And it's crazy how it was also what was needed because being in Erie, I didn't grow up there. I didn't know anyone outside of my family and, my dad and my stepmom and like my stepbrother, stepsister, people who would be around. But I didn't have much friends. I probably had 2 or 3 friends in that area. So if I wasn't working with him, then I was in my room studying and like marking up charts and taking trades and playing the game and listening to, I had all my walls covered in like affirmations and quotes and Bible scriptures and how much I would need to make each month to get to $1 million. And I just literally, I know I looked crazy to anyone who would come in my room, but I knew that I needed to make my environment, I needed to see it. Faith comes by hearing the word. And then also the whole write the vision, make it plain, and those who see it will run to it. And I just knew as long as I, keep over and over and over again, that would be the GPS. I don't know how I'll get there, but in due time. So everything has been playing out. I mean, that's what's so cool about it is you just have to have the faith to believe big enough. And then the whole faith without work is dead. You can believe all day long, but you still like the more that's what's so crazy is some people would think, oh, I believe so big that I don't have to work, that it'll just happen. But if you really believed that big, like you would want to get to work because like you're so excited about it. Like it's like, once again, that obsession, that thing that just, just like keeps you beating the drum. So yeah, that's what I would say probably.
So the low point is now you're back home with your dad. Okay. I might have missed when you were saying, so you weren't making much money at all at that time, right? Is that when you were working at Target?
No, I was working at Target in Denver.
Oh,
And
okay.
it was just like the low point had nothing to do with who I was around. It had everything to do with my situation. Just like losing two of the people closest to me in that time of my life. Losing in the sense of, you're no longer talking to them every day, or like that relationship is just vastly different. And then also my mom being sick, like that was the beginning of a lot of anxiety and things that would weigh on me every day that weren't physical, but was emotional and mental. And not having any money. So it's like I'm back home with my dad. My stepmom runs a daycare, and I have my room, but it's just like this, from being number one in the nation and then living in Denver with first rounder, to then being back at home but no car, no money, and like back at square one. That's why I was like, and then on top of it, like I said, my mom's sick, and then two relationships that are like your two top people in life. It's like, you just feel stripped of a lot, and it just felt very heavy, and just a lot of for a long time I was just crying every day, and I'd be at work, crying and just upset and just hoping that it would all work out. And then Dante and one of my best friends, Dante Lewis, he and I had already been getting on Zooms, and like we would be doing teaching calls and like trying to like still grow and sharpen our blade with the skill. And then we just decided to move to Atlanta together. And I moved there with like $500. And then I actually ended up getting an NCAA check from being in one of the video games, the last one that they had made before the new ones. And that was like $6K. So that ended up being seed money that really like helped me get going down there and like be able to have a little money to trade with, and also a little money to like move around and not just be feeling like if I don't make some money in like a month or two, then it's going to get dark, So
Because
it's
I've heard
cool
that's
how
the worst
everything
thing in
works
the
out.
world is when you're desperate trying to do that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like being patient, and hunting. I always love watching the Animal Planet stuff, but yeah, it's just fishing or anything else, or like forcing shots in basketball, It's like instead of just letting the game come to you and taking good looks. Like if you miss the good looks, fine. But yeah, when you're in like that, I always love the term commission breath. It's
Ooh.
like when people need the sale or they need you to do whatever it is they're pitching you on, versus if they already are in a state of abundance, it's like whether you do this or not, I'm going to still be doing it. And it doesn't affect me whether or not you do this. But there have been seasons of my life where I probably had commission breath. I needed a mint, some Listerine, or, just where it's just like my life was so I have to figure this out and get something going, that I was ignorance on fire instead of knowledge on ice, which I'm cool with. I'm okay with that. That's just where I was at. Now it's a lot different. Now, like I said, have a free course. If people want to learn about trading or investing, it's there. But outside of that, I don't even I haven't taught in so long, as far as like doing mentorships or classes, or I just been so busy with certain traveling stuff and then getting all this house stuff. My mom had a pretty good sized house. So like just trying to get all the, sentimental stuff packed up and then find a new place to really lock in. I'm excited about that.
I'm excited for you too in this next phase, man. I think you're going to do some big things. I think you're going to do some big
Yeah.
things. We're tracking right now. Now you're in Atlanta with Dante. Is there a point? Because like what I want to do is I want to kind of bring this back full circle for people that are listening. It's always nice to hear when people have, when they're talking glowingly about what they have going on now. Sometimes
Right.
it doesn't become relatable until you hear about, the plight, the downfall, the setback. But part of this whole thing is it's hard to tell a comeback story without, coming back, right? Coming back out the other side. So is there a point for you where you really felt like this was starting to turn around for you? What did that look like? What did you do to push yourself back over top? And then, in that same breath, because I don't want to cut you off with it, any keys, right? So I think we can all be in retrospect and say, okay, this is what happened. This is what worked out for me. So any keys, lessons, takeaways from your journey that you feel like the King audience could probably hear about. So I'll throw it back to you for that.
Okay, I would say breakthrough would be like around 2020 and 2021, where it wasn't like I was making like 10K or like, 5 or 10K anymore. Now the wins were 100K or 60K or 80K. And that's what's cool is a lot of them, some of them I didn't even document, but most of them I would have on like YouTube or just show people, it could be a small balance and this is how much it ended up paying out. And so those like paydays were sizable enough where it would take care of like a month's, like probably like 10 to 11. Cause I'm not a super big spender, like to me, I would rather invest most of it and plan for the next 3 to 5 and play that game, the patience game. The same way in these trades, like I said, I've been in these trades since election day. A lot of people that are day traders say, they don't want to hold a trade longer than an hour or a day. I mean, we're talking about
That's a lot of patience.
Yeah, and it's like I don't want it to make it. It's not like it's always easy, especially when you're in retracements, which basically mean if price is up real high, when it starts to dip back down, you got to still be able to stay calm and not panic and not close out. But all that has come with everything that I've experienced in my life. I wouldn't like, it's crazy how losing my mom also took away a certain, give AF, like it kind of, as crazy as that sounds, it's like there was like a savage inside of me that already existed. But then like what came with that just like woke up something else because it almost, like I was saying earlier about how I was too emotionally and personally connected to money. Then once that happened, it made me realize that there's still levels on the totem pole as far as like what really is, highest in your list of life.
What
And,
matters. Yeah.
yeah. So like to me, it's like you can lose money and always get it back. I went from super personal to then way too reckless and careless. And then now I feel like I'm at a nice, good, like, okay, had a little crash out season of life where it's like, because I did sports betting where I took 6K to like 182,000 in, I would say a month or two. And then ended up blowing the whole 182,000. But I placed over $900,000 worth of bets though, just from that 6K that I built up. And I would like make 20K, then like lose 13K, then I ended up doing that in reverse. Like the most I put on a game was like Memphis Grizzlies. I put 50,000 on them just because they were playing against the Lakers. I saw Ja Morant
In one game?
Yeah, one game, live bet. He did like a tween, finished with the left, and then he dapped his pops up while he was jogging back down the other way. And I thought Ja was finna have a night because his dad was sitting courtside, and But it was AD's first game back after an injury. He ended up having a triple-double, and there that 50 went. So that's the worst. That's the terrible story. The biggest day that helped get the 182 up. I was actually two of my childhood best friends growing up, Lewis and Dexter, and I had made 3 big bets leading up to it, and then put all the money made from those 3 big bets on the Detroit Lions at plus 200, plus 500, might have even been a plus 600 when they were down big at half, and ended up having a 100K day from all of the bets. So very transparent about that, man. It's like that was my first time even getting into betting, but I was like, oh wow, this is just like trading. You just have to use good risk management. And I just was to a point where I was like, there was all house money anyway, so I was being too reckless with it. I didn't have an Excel sheet, wasn't keeping track of all, which sports I'm doing, which teams I'm doing. I just was. But to me, it still showed me, I'm like, okay, the only reason I was able to place, 20K on games, 10K on games, 50K, because of the mindset that I had already built up through trading, the emotional intelligence. So yeah, to me, it's all EQ, like lifting weights. Once you get past a certain area, then a certain weight, then you feel like the next time you sit down to go do it mentally, you already know you can do it because you've done it before. So it's kind of like cracking that 4-minute mile. Once it happened, then so many people did it again because they saw it was possible. So Yeah, I mean, had I had the XRP trade, even that's what's so crazy about timing though. Had I had that trade even 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I probably would have just closed at 100,000, because to me, that was $1 million when it happened, you know? Like to me, like before my affirmation was ever, I am a millionaire day trader, I was saying I'm a six-figure trader because I only had 500 to 2K in my actual bank account through a lot of that season of life. So it was like my belief wasn't even big enough to think about saying millionaire. That felt to me like too big of a fantasy. It was like, all right, Jason, believe big enough for six. And then once you get there, but then that's like, even right now, my affirmation is I'm a billionaire, because it's like, I realized that you can skip a lot of levels. And that also, in hearing it, once again, your faith is growing every day when you're hearing it. So
If you had one piece of advice for anybody that's in the financial space, and you know, when I'm saying that, we're specifically talking day trading. We can even throw sports betting in there. I know there's a lot of people. We've got a sports bet chat group inside the app, but you know, people that are looking for these alternative ways to, you know, hypercharge their finance. What's the number one piece of advice that you could give somebody that you learned from this journey, from being at your pop's house to, you know, now having the success you do today?
stay patient, keep the faith, keep going. And you can even start small too. Like, it's really just creating the habit is what I try to get people to understand. It's like, once you start doing it, then almost it becomes like, I became addicted to wanting to keep, like how me and my little brother used to be so hype about getting a new pack of Pokemon cards. You'll go get the cards, you'll pay, you'll rip them open. And then once I would get like a holographic Charizard or something, I'll go crazy. And that's how I started looking at coins. Is just, I mean, I'm a simple guy, like I'm bougie, but also simple at the same time, where like, I like to have nice things, but I also like to be smart and strategic about where everything goes and plan for the future, especially because of being in such bad situations. There's at my lowest, there was also times in between Denver and Erie, there were times where, I might be like in the storage unit or at an IHOP or Anytime Fitness in the bathroom, like just trying to get some sleep and not having money for a hotel or motel because maybe I was getting paid that Friday, or like just certain things where it's like, I don't know anyone out here and I also don't have a car to get home, like a lot of different things. But in JUCO as well, same thing, that's many years of just not having money and living in a scarcity mindset. And so I think if people create the habit and start putting some money in here or there, then they'll be excited and want to keep adding to the portfolio. Because then when the gains, like, they gain. It's a little bit. It hits a little different when you've been adding every single weekend for years.
Oh yeah, well, I love hearing what you were talking about. Especially, you referenced EQ, emotional intelligence, a couple of times. We talk about that a lot of here in the Comeback Kings, because we know that for most people, that level up does have to come with a mental level up as well, right? An emotional level up. And I think something also that you said that is crucial is that if you are in a position that where you're looking to go to the next level, like understanding that there is some timing involved in it as well. Timing is everything, right? Like you said, I mean, had this, XRT trade happen, 7 years ago or whatever, you might not have had the skill set, the patience or whatever, to have a favorable outcome there. So I like the way that you kind of wrapped all that together, brother. I mean, listen, I'm very excited to watch you just continue to crush things, man. I really appreciate that you take some time to be a part of this Comeback Kings movement and, participate here on the podcast. So as we wrap up, Stu, how can people catch you if they want to, be able to connect with you? Maybe they want your course, or if they just want to reach out to you one-on-one, however you're doing things, man, you just let us know how they can reach QB Stew.
Yeah, QBSTEW on all platforms, and then QBstew.com if they want the free course. And I appreciate you having me on. It was awesome for us to be able to do a deep dive. And I guess the final thing I would like to leave people with too, because this is something that I know for me, like, the hardest day of my life was the day my mom passed. And even before then, though, actually, I would say like days leading up to that may have been harder just because it was like the amount of like anxiety and just, it was an intensity that I had never felt before in my entire life. And then the realization of, you know, your favorite, one of your favorite people on earth is about to leave until you see them again. And it reminded me of like a squat rack and just life putting on so much weight on the squat rack. And then you thinking, like, there's no way I can lift this. And a lot of it time, whether it's been with my mom or with trading or times where people feel like giving up, that's where it feels like just so much weight on the bar. And then you see life put another plate on, and you're like, I was already about to drop, and now I just threw another plate on. But then you realize that God is the one spotting you, and you should almost take it as a compliment that he knew you were strong enough to handle a whole nother plate. And that even if you do get down and shaky, that he's going to raise you back up again. And those like reps are the ones that actually truly grow you. You know, it's like the difference in when you work out by yourself versus you have a trainer. And God is our trainer. God is going to put on the bar what he knows we're capable of handling. And it's going to be really hard. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but if you trust in him and you trust in the work that you put in, then you're going to be able to stand back up with that weight, and you're going to be stronger because of it. And
Cool.
that's how I'm going to take on any challenge I have in life.
Man, I love that attitude. It's easy to see why you've been successful because your head is on straight, man. And I appreciate those gems, those words of wisdom for everybody. And like you said, QB Stu, man, go check him out. You know, get the course if you want to participate in that way. But just appreciate you, sir. Glad to have you here. And Kings out there, keep pushing to the next episode. Peace. That does it for another episode of the Comeback Kings podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, leave us a review, and come join the after party inside the app at cbknetwork.com. And remember, your past doesn't define you, your comeback will.